Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another session of hashtag Gathered Grow here on Food from Zanzi's Instagram Live. My name is Dawn Numdu, and I'm your host. And I'm very happy to be back on this platform. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight is specifically going to be focused on understanding Agri-Tech. We'll have speakers talking about what they do within the Agri-Tech space. And this is about agricultural technology, also how you can improve your farming practice and what you can do to implement, Ag-Tech within your day-to-day, activities on the farm. Agri-Tech innovation, we're going to showcase technology advancements and innovations in agriculture that is changing the landscape of farming within the country, but also globally. I see some of my speakers have joined. Let me just see. Go live with Sabelo. Sabelo is one of my favorite people within the ag-tech space. Hello.
Hi, Dawn.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good, thank you. Great to have you, Samkelo. Why am I saying Sabelo? Sabelo, someone else I know. Actually. Sorry about that.
No,
Samkelo boy, really
yes.
great to have you with us. I'm just
Pleasure.
going to have Ayanda join us as well. How was your day? How have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. Like, we haven't really spoken.
Yeah, I think
It's been a minute.
the last time we had a chat was at the last Indaba.
Mhm.
It's been a year round. We're already planning the next ones.
Yes.
Been
And that's
very
partly what we're gonna, towards the end of this session, I think we'll focus on the Indaba a little bit. So I'm going to be sharing highlights from last year. And Blackface in the house. Hello, hello, hello. Hi. Look at them looking all cool with the bear there in the middle. So awesome. Okay, great. So I was just saying that we're going to do a bit of an introduction to this year's Indaba. So Ipeleng is going to come through and we'll hear from hear her and what she says. Okay, I'm not seeing Ayanda. Is Ayanda on this session?
Yes, she is.
Yes,
Oh, okay. Hey, hello, Ayanda. So my phone does this weird thing, so I can't actually see your face, but I'm sure you're looking standing there wherever you are. I'm going to do a round of introductions. So let's start with Ayanda because I feel like that's just how I'm going to do things. Ayanda, you are the Chief Operating Officer of the Kula app. Tell us about you, what you do, and all about the Kula app. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ayanda Vana. I'm currently the COO at Kula. We are an agri-tech, obviously startup. I think everyone that's here, we're all doing the same thing. It's really refreshing to say agri-tech and not have someone say, what's that? So what we really do is, I think out of all the conversations we're having today, which are focused on other technologies, but we are a platform-based business that really focuses on creating marketplaces for farmers where they can sell directly to buyers. That's our main platform. And then the second one being the input marketplace where farmers can buy products in production inputs for their farms. And on that, we have over 7,000 products, 100 suppliers plus suppliers, and we have distribution points across the country. And yeah, we just have really great suppliers that really sell on the platform. I think you can see this as like the Alibaba of sort of agri in South Africa, where anyone basically, if you're looking for a specific product, we probably have it because we've onboarded the supplier who sells that. And also what's cool about that there's a lot of technical support. I think, as you all know, there are a lot of emerging farmers that, you are the farm manager, you are the admin person, you're the accountant, you are the tractor driver. And so having to have like an agronomist or having access to a soil scientist is very like rare unless you are going in for help. So now we've sort of brought that onto a platform where you can interact with these people and they're more attainable. And then the last one, which I won't focus too much on, is like funding, which I focus on and how we sort of connect funders and farmers. So Yeah, so essentially that's our who Kula is. We have over 15,000 farmers on our platform. And yeah, I think that's just really a summary of who we are, what we do. If I were to speak, generally my presentation is like 20 minutes, but I'm just going to cap it to that.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we could listen to you for 20 minutes, but I have to give the other speakers a chance as well. But yeah, Kula is absolutely amazing. I know so many of your other team members, such a vibe. Totally love you guys. So thank you so much for joining and for being here and for participating in this talk. I don't think I've been in a space with this many Agri-Tech people like speaking so proudly about Agri-Tech. So yes, for that. Okay, I'm gonna go over to Black Bear. So it's Yannick and Alpha. I don't know who wants to speak first, but you can just tell us more about what you guys do. So it's Black-based services. I also saw you guys at the Indaba last year. So shout out Indaba. That's how we connect. So let's go. I don't know who wants to speak first, but please tell us about who you guys are and what you guys do within the Agri-Tech space.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Yannick for Agri-Tech, and I'm here with my Alpha designer. Essentially, we're a tech company and implement user-centric asset management. We do primarily based on the AEC. So what essentially we do is implement manage physical assets. In so doing, our
Sorry, Yannick. People are just saying that you're breaking up a little bit. I don't want to miss. I thought I was the only one, but I see that there's some comments saying black bass sound isn't coming through well. So I don't know if you could maybe move the phone closer to your face, or something like that. So we just like get all of what you're saying, and then you can just switch over to Alpha if that's okay. Thanks.
Just testing. Is this better? Can you hear me better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you. So you can just redo all of that again. More talking for you.
No problem, no problem. So yeah, we're essentially a startup tech company that focuses on asset performance management systems. So we build, create, design, build, and implement management systems that can give you a holistic view of your physical assets. And essentially what our company does is we connect the physical world to a digital platform. We do work primarily in the built environment and just moving into the agri space now, where we focus on systems that can give you a holistic view on the performance of your most critical assets and essentially give, whether you're a farmer or you own facilities, give you a holistic view on your critical key performing assets that can enable you to have and make effective decisions on what you need to do to enhance your operation.
Thanks so much. I just had to figure out what's happening with the sound. Hi, Alpha. Great to have you join us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
You summed it up
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much. Samkelo, thank you so much for joining me. I think I spoke briefly about where I last saw you, but maybe you can tell us about what you guys do in the Agri-Tech space.
100%. Hi, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. So I'm the founder of Agri-Tech, which is a community-based marketplace that connects opportunities for livestock farmers to their commodity. We're also looking at the underlying challenges that are faced by livestock farmers, which include livestock pests. So looking at basically place for farmers.
Okay, thank you so much. So everyone did a round of introductions. I'm sorry about the sound. There seems to be something going on. I hope it's not my network, because I know that it is, my network being stable is a big thing. So let's just wait it out and see. I'm gonna go back to Ayanda and then to Alpha as well, because I think Ayanda, your sound is pretty clear. Maybe I think as an introduction, like, because we say Agri-Tech, but what do we actually mean? What does it actually mean when we talk about agricultural technology? Because now this is someone that's like just stepping into the industry, knows nothing about farming, but then this word agri-tech just gets thrown around. Like, what does it actually mean? Alpha, I'm gonna go to you.
So the way that we look at it is that it entails everything is used within the agricultural space. So from being able to get full production traceability or to help you with certain operations. For example, I will go over today drones. They help you get coverage over your land so that you can foresee certain issues or ensure that your property, your land, or your asset is also what is measured down in your books. So it's all to give us better vision or better sense of what is on the ground. As oftentimes you have to be slightly remote when you are dealing in the agricultural space. It is also dealing with all those various types from the soil to satellite imagery, to drone technology, to sophisticated like vertical farming. If you look at such as Singapore, where the whole nation is invested in developing the vertical farming industry on that side, that is what is entailed under essentially.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Ayanda, your take on it, if you had to explain it to someone that's like totally new to the industry.
Yeah, I think I think I made a joke earlier on when when you say are you agri-tech, people be like, "What's that?" And you basically have to say the full word to say it's agricultural technology. They're like, "Oh, agriculture and technology." You're like, "That's literally what agri-tech means." But I think for anyone that's sort of sitting there thinking, "Oh my goodness, what does this mean for me as a farmer?" So really think about it as the use of technology in farming practices to basically improve productivity, bring efficiencies, and how to make your business sustainable. So what do I mean when I say efficiencies? So this means that I think it was an example that was used. How can we use drones to enable farmers to precisely apply inputs like water, fertilizers? So there you're introducing technology as a mechanism. And I think one of the things that I'm actually studying this year, doing my master's in digital business, and one of the things we've actually realized that agriculture is like one of the oldest form of technologies. I mean, when you trace it back to the Stone Age, people were already doing really cool technological things. So when we think about technology, you should just not only think about it as a modern day thing, but it's something that actually is not new. I mean, there's been so many tools that have been used to bring efficiencies, to bring productivity, and also how to make your business sustainable. And I think one of the things I wanted to touch on, because I think a lot of the questions are anchored around some of the digital technology, some of the technological solutions out there, is that, when you look at platform-based businesses, which is basically what we do, really what we're trying to do is to streamline purchasing processes in such a way that will increase both efficiencies for the buyer and the seller, and basically reducing inefficiencies in the supply chain, right? So again, you already see how the efficiency is coming, and you already see how we're able to already be productive and also bring sustainability for anyone, for your business. So I think those are some of the key things that you can look at, and when you look at your business as a whole, you're not just looking at it as just like these drones that are flying around, but I think ultimately seeing how can I use technology to improve productivity, efficiencies, and sustainability.
And I think the key thing that you said was also not just the sellers and the producers, but the buyers as well. So it's, I guess, for everyone. And I think that's also a very important aspect to kind of note as we're going through the discussion. I think I want to bring you in, Samkelo, with my next question. When it comes to, how has precision farming evolved over the years? And are there specific technologies that are contributing, to the success of modern agriculture? I mean, we've seen amazing things and it always looks so super cool, but like if you compare what you're doing to, those huge, machineries and things, and that's like super, fascinating to look at, but what's the scale really, and where do people fall in? Like, where are we actually at?
100%. What the is have mentioned around technology and use, right? So I think my understanding of it, being able to optimize have in a manner that and yields on your farm. So from being able to and being able to compare, benchmark that, and where I think technology advanced now is not only being where you have issues on your farm, able to have recommendations. What?
Okay, sorry, Samkelo. I think people are mentioning that there's an echo on your sound, and I've just asked that all the speakers who's not speaking to mute their microphones. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. This is so funny because now we're struggling with technology and we're talking about technology. Okay, so everyone else who's not speaking, please mute your microphones, and then Samkelo, you can continue as case yellow.
No worries. It's just the live example of technology is not doesn't solve everything.
Exactly.
To do things better, right? So I think where I was getting with this is that I think precision farming is being able to optimize your resources, using the tools that you have, and being able to use them in an optimal manner. And I think the advancement of technology, specifically with AI, has allowed you not to only identify anomalies within either your crop or livestock, whatever you want to call it, but also infer recommendations based on historic data and advice from your experts as well, who would input into those types of models. So I think where it has gone from back then to now is basically the predictive elements to it and pinpointing exactly what you should be doing as a farmer, rather than having someone to interpret the data and tell you what to do.
Thank you so much. I think that's definitely one of the key things or areas that we continuously talk about on these platforms. To talk about like data capturing, monitoring, all of that is vital when it comes to farming and ensuring that you keep that record constantly, continuously. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Samkelo. My next question, I think I want to bring Ayanda back into it, and then I'll go to the Black Bear team as well. Can you maybe highlight some real, examples of where artificial intelligence is being effectively utilized in agriculture and how it's impacting, decision-making processes for farmers?
Okay, so I was just trying to mute myself. So I think, as I said, like a lot of my answers really come from studies, because I think, the questions are anchored around IoT, AI, which is really exciting, really great for farmers. But so I'm going to base a lot of that from sort of practical theory and seeing what's happening out there. So I think one of the key technologies, or one of the key companies that are really doing amazing things, I think people have heard about them, Blue River Technology. So they have this called See and Spray technology, which basically uses computer vision and machine learning to precisely target herbicide application, which then reduces chemical usage and cost for farmers. So this now was part of John Deere. Go research them, find out more about them. So what they've done with all of the See and Spray technology is that they're able to then use AI-powered technology to enable farmers to take more precise decisions about herbicide application and reducing waste and optimizing resource usage. So by you actually targeting maybe something like, let's just say weeds, you're maximizing crop yields, because we know what happens when these weeds, I think it's for farmers that are on this call, they probably think it's like a nightmare if you like planting something. So through this, you're able to target those weeds, then that will maximize your crop yields. And I think ultimately what Blue River Technology has really done is empowering farmers to make data-driven decisions that improve efficiencies and sustainability in their operations. And I think that sort of becomes key, data-driven decisions that then lead to how you can then improve efficiencies and also sustainability in your operations.
So definitely. Black Bear, do you guys agree with what Ayanda's saying in terms of, and I feel free to speak about your products and what you guys offer. This is a space for you also to share that. So showcase that as well. Yannick, do you agree with what Ayanda's saying?
I fully agree with that. So key phrase there is data-driven insights. I think a lot of the time we make decisions based on either gut feel or experience, and whether or not that helps is left to be seen with the outcomes. So for us, as Alpha mentioned earlier on, our thought process is to think as holistically as possible. So with that, it comes down to the platform that you use that can integrate multiple things that are happening within your operation. And the essential thing with that is to have real-time insights. To get real-time insights, however, you need devices or certain technologies that can give you those insights. Then you can put that into your field operation, your farm analytics, and essentially add sort of data exchange between what would typically be silos of information. I think in our experience, both in the agriculture space as well as in the built environment, there are many silos of information. And on one operation, you can find several different systems. And very few times do you find an operation with central that all of these things. So I'll give it over to Alpha now, but essentially we are solution partners to Agri-Tech, which is a global Agri-Tech company. And essentially we work together with them to deliver certain solutions for the African continent that can connect multiple technologies to one platform. Yeah. One of the real-time use cases that we have an example of with AI is Agri-Ed, but I'll hand over to Alpha just to give you a bit of a heads up on that.
So very succinctly, I'll just say Agri-Ed is a sub-product that the solution partner we have. Basically, an AI chatbot that functions as a on-the-go 24/7 agronomist in your hand. It connects straight to your WhatsApp, and you can ask it certain things like, when is it the best time for me, if I'm in this location, to plant this? Is this a viable investment to make? So that's something they've been working on for a while. That's closely related to us, one of the best, one of the most hands-on real-world examples we can give with using AI. Obviously, they're using the 25 years of experience in the industry to give you all that insight while they're managing and working in various countries around the world as we speak. So with that being said, yeah, AI and machine learning are driving everything, especially platform-centric, especially with platform-centric.
100%. And if I could add just one more thing, I think that becomes a game changer, especially when you use the platform to collaborate with other farmers. I think with siloed information, you have use cases where people are trying to retain or keep their IP as far as possible, but that does give us a certain disadvantage when it comes to growing the sector on this continent. And for example, the data models that we'll use for Agri-Ed and being able to give out that information is very limited on this continent. So for us to use these tools and accentuate, to be able to help all of us essentially deliver on services and, well, sustainability as we all want to get to. Yeah, that's essentially where we are, and it is the future. It is the future.
Yeah, I think Samkelo is like saying, yeah, they're in the corner. You want to contribute to that question before I go over to my next one? I must say that there is one more speaker that's going to join, so we'll do a bit of a switch over midway, on this live. This person is specifically focused on drone technology, so I'd love to have him join us as well. But first, over to you, Samkelo.
For sure. And I'll just make an example of AI within the livestock field as well, because I also feel, should have some representation. So there's this, some use cases that, quite cool that, I've seen as well when we look at the issue of livestock theft, for example. When you look at image processing, there's another cool startup that has been working on a solution that has facial recognition on cattle and livestock, which is quite cool, right? And you don't think of these things. We have facial recognition on our phones and all those things, but it actually solves a fundamental issue of livestock theft, especially with other players when you go and sell to auctions and all of those things, and they can actually pinpoint who's the true owner of that livestock. So just wanted to maybe bring in that flavor as well.
Thank you so much for representing the livestock industry, Samkelo. So, I mean, I want to go over to my next question, and then I'm going to ask one of the two gentlemen or three gentlemen to drop, and then I'm going to get my other speaker to also come through. And remember, you can also comment in the section. Tandeka is also going to use the comment section to join us. Yeah, she says Agri-Digital uses AI to track and trace agricultural products. Thank you so much, Tandeka, for your contribution there as well. I'm going to go back to Ayanda. Ayanda, now, in what ways, are smart sensors and IoT, Internet of Things, to Google that one, devices being integrated into agricultural practices, and how do they contribute to the increased efficiency and resources, optimization?
All right, so I'm just going to define IoT for anyone that's like joining in and thinking, how's this relevant to me?
Thank you so much, because I'm one of those people.
I'm going to define the textbook definition from my actual textbook. I wrote an exam about this not so long ago. So I'm going to read that, and I'm going to simplify that. I'm going to go into examples, right? So I think the first thing is just quickly, I'm going to read it directly as it is. It's a network of interconnected devices embedded with sensors, software, and other technologies that enable to collect and exchange data over the internet. So what does that mean in this instance? It really is that IoT is all about connecting everyday objects to the internet so that we can send and receive data, and we can use this to monitor and control things remotely. So that is essentially what IoT is. So I think what we've seen in what's happening right now, or more so some of the things that I've been pondering around, working with emerging farmers that get funding, and then looking at sort of the labor they maybe don't have to do certain functions on their farm, to say, how can we introduce IoT to actually sort of tackle these issues? And I know when I say that, you're like, oh, the cost is massive initially, which is true, but in the long term, it is going to be more cost effective than having like manual, maybe scouting. So I think one of the examples that I want to make is that we have farmers in Limpopo, and one of them was struggling with pests and diseases, and he had very limited labor on the ground, and obviously having to train people to scout properly so you can scout for diseases and pests. And obviously, I think the agri people are getting like excited about this because they know that, this is what you have to do to make sure that you get, or, you protect your crops. And the issue there was that some of the guys, firstly, very limited labor. Secondly, some of them didn't really understand how manual scouting looks like, and how you have to do it. And just of the process, you don't have to really say the crop is dead and that's what I found. What was happening before that? And some of the things that we've been thinking about, to say that some of these farmers who maybe are getting funding and we need to de-risk them, and then maybe they don't have sort of the right I would say, labor on the ground, and maybe training has not taken place. How can we then introduce smart sensors or cameras sort of to dictate pests and diseases by monitoring plant health indicators, and also for the farmer to respond quickly to protect their crops, right? Because that's ultimately what you're trying to do. You're trying to get your crops so that you can get those yields, so that you can sell, so you can make that money. And so that's one of the things that how IoT has been very fundamental in making sure that there's efficiencies, to say, how can you use these things to basically, for instance, in this scenario, scout for disease and pests to ensure that you can quickly protect your crop. And I think another key thing is weed indication. I think I've spoken about this weed indication, about how, any farmer that is on the ground, and when you see weeds, it's a disaster, because weeds mean a lot. They mean so much labor cost or any other follow-on fertilizers where you have to actually like sort of kill those weeds and make sure that they don't come back because they'll swallow your crop, which means you'll lose your crop. And some of the things that can be done is weed indication. How can we use image recognition technology to identify different weed species? And this will help the farmers to basically remove or treat this by reducing the need to always apply herbicides and also manual labor, which obviously is very costly. I mean, I'll give an indication, like right now, a farmer has weeds on just 8 hectares, and just to correct that, he has to spend close to 80,000 rand just to get rid of those weeds. And I mean, already you can imagine that's already outside sort of his budget for the season. And it's not even on the whole 80 on the 8 hectares, but it's like I think on 4 hectares, and already that's quite a huge cost for you to just get rid of these weeds and do it right. And this is you using methods that are still the most cost-effective methods, but do not always guarantee that you will maybe get rid of all those weeds. And so those are some of the things that IoT has the ability to do. And I want to bring it back to what we do, obviously platform-based business, which is marketplaces, and that's what Kula does. So how does this speak to our buyers? By you having these IoT smart sensors, what it does is it's collecting this data and it's able to inform you on what's happening on your farm. What that really does is for the funder or for the buyer, we also have full overview of your journey in your production process. So the fund is able to see how do we quickly de-risk this farmer. So I'm able to collect that data. There's an issue, we're gonna lose this because there's sensors telling us on the ground. And then secondly, you also have sort of a buyer who also has a view of what's happening within your production, within your farm. So I think when you think about it in terms of the initial setup, obviously it's quite high, but the long-term benefits of the data that comes from there are so much more significant than you actually having to think about the initial cough up of cost that's required, because obviously it's more scalable, it's more accurate, and it's more efficient. And at the end of the day, it becomes sort of the most cost-effective option in terms of the results that you're able to pull from there, and also the accuracy. As I said, like the guys don't really understand, some of the workers don't understand how to do it, so they lose some of those crops, and also it's scalable, so you can actually run it at a, you know, it's the more sensors you have, it's not even a matter of how or how less, and then whereas labor is really relative, and then also the right type of labor. And you guys know agri, seasonal workers just shift based on who's paying the best price. This week, if you're paying 79 Rand per hour, and then one guy's paying 80 Rand, trust, you're gonna lose that seasonal worker to the next farm that's not even far from you. So already you're losing that right person who understands the process, and that means less labor. So yeah, I can go on about this, but it's something that we are also looking how we can essentially de-risk a farmer and how we can bring it back to our platform-based business in terms of how we can essentially bring those efficiencies, accuracy, and how we can make it more scalable for a farmer, even though the initial cost. I mean, I want to keep saying that because when you say it, people are like, it's so expensive. I do recognize it's expensive, but the benefits are, quite massive.
No, definitely. I think I'm happy that you're repeating that over and over again, because I think I've heard both Black Bear services also kind of saying the same thing in conversations previously. But I just quickly want to hop over to our guest that joined in. Boise, thank you so much for being here. Zipezintle, thank you so much. I'm very proud. He says there's a proud Agri-Tech entrepreneur. Welcome. Maybe you can just tell us more about you and what you do in the industry. I know you as the drone guy. That's all that's when I see you, I think about drones. Maybe you can just tell us a bit about who you are and what you do within Agri-Tech. Thanks.
Okay, no, thank you very much for having me and also inviting me to this conversation. So essentially my name is Boise Kabuza, and I'm the managing director for Luxscape. So Luxscape, we are like a consulting company for agricultural companies to help build systems for them. to build systems for them. So as you are saying, I'm mainly known for being the drone guy. So the first entry that we made into the industry was through drones. So we used to do commercial crop spraying. We used to do a lot of farm surveillance, and then through learning about drones, we got into software and we started building. So that's when I got involved with some of the livestock companies like Serdev, Cernek, and Mondi, and some of them. So what we are trying to do as Luxscape is to look at the problems that companies have. For example, we're currently working on a project in the Rustenburg region, where we are trying to see how the farmers are using the land, and we are trying to see what the issues are and how we can solve some of the issues that they are having with the land. So we mainly work with developing farmers, essentially because we feel like they are the ones that need the most help, as they need that information to make better decisions for their own farming operations. So how we understand it at Luxscape is that how we understand Agri-Tech and what we are trying to do. So we understand that Agri-Tech is a big field, and there's many subsects of Agri-Tech, and we are involved in two, which is the drones and farm management and analysis. So mainly what we are trying to do with the farm management is try to bridge the gap of information with farmers. So we try to give them safe information, safe up-to-date news in the industry that they need to know. And also at the same time, we are giving them tools to help operate their farms. So essentially that's what we are doing. And we're also trying to, and we are managing projects on communal land. So yeah, that's mainly what we are doing at Luxscape. And drones are just a tool that we use, because we believe drones are a tool of gathering information. The most important thing is the information that the drone brings, and that's what we are interested in.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I want to, keep you or continue talking about more in terms of, drone technology. But I'm just going to quickly jump back to the previous question and I go to Alpha, and then just ask him again, because I think a lot of what Ayanda was saying was around, just people's kind of changing their mind around, paying for the initial cost of what this product might actually cost them initially, and then seeing the long-term, impact of what it actually means to use it. So maybe you can just kind of, if you had to convince someone now to take on any one of these products and services, what would you say to them and kind of try to convince them in that way?
Okay. I think I would first try to link it to thinking along the terms of something like investment, in that you are going to see, you're going to bear the fruits of what you've planted in due time. But in that interim, the cost or possible heartache or headaches in the future, in that you can't necessarily improve or optimize what you're not measuring. Even if you're doing it in an arbitrary manner, if you can get as precise as possible, and I'm not saying that technology is the savior of it all, as we could see, we had struggles tonight as well. But any measure to put certain things in, you need to focus on your use case and what's your, your minimum low-hanging fruit. Take it from there, and you measure that over time. You'll gradually start to highlight issues that you have, whether it's staff related, whether it's the wrong machinery you have. If you don't have a way to see that over the 5-year period, the machines we're purchasing are not all that well, and we keep having to replace them and do maintenance, whereas we could purchase something else that would help us, which is what we were speaking about earlier when we said data-driven decision-making. And that's actually, I think, for me, irrespective of how anyone in this panel tackles the issues, we want to have a baseline of information leading us going forward. So investing in any technology that helps you have a sort of like a crutch to stand on to base what you are saying and how you're measuring it, I think it's more than beneficial. It speaks for itself. It's why we're not posting mail physically anymore. That we can actually see this date and time is when I sent this email. Why are you not responding to me? It's just that the cost now is that it's marginal to an extent, but it would sometimes be over a 2-year period or a 5-year period, whereas people want and tend to want the tech to show its ROI right now. That's the little relationship we need to start educating the public on to fix that illusion or disillusion in a sense. Do you have anything else you would add?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I think I like Ayanda's attention to detail on giving the definition of it. Yeah, as Blackberry, we were actually born out of a need to monitor critical assets on a real estate site, and we have a very love-hate relationship with with the term IoT, mainly because it's so broad, but it's also so misjudged in terms of what the general populace, especially any decision maker, thinks it should give or should yield. When you look at just the definition, as Ayanda mentioned it, internet and things is just interconnected network of things, and things is broad. What we found usually is that people confuse Internet of Things with just being devices, where essentially it's not. It's actually any one of, and just going back to the start of this conversation, any one of the tools, technological tools that you use. It could be processes, it could be your software, it could be the systems you use to actually help you yield those things. It's all about how they integrate. And exactly as Alpha mentioned, the return on investment won't be immediate. And that's usually what our client base or any person is usually looking for. However, long term, it does yield its benefit. It's just about planning. I think it's just honestly about planning when you expect, or adjusting your expectation on when you expect on when you can actually yield that return. But essentially, any technological tool will advance. It's just about how you use it, how you plan for it, and essentially deciding on what outcomes you want and when.
Thanks so much for that, Yannick. And I'm going to focus now specifically on one technological tool that we have Boise to tell us more about that, because as I mentioned, drones are becoming, increasingly prevalent in agriculture. And, how are they really being employed to enhance farm operations? I think we've mentioned a little bit of that throughout the conversation. And then just to kind of, again, go over the benefits and what they bring in terms of monitoring data and collection overall. Thanks, Boise.
Currently, from what I'm seeing in the industry, what drones are being used for, mainly right now in South Africa, people are just mainly using them for the biggest operation, which is the commercial crop spraying. But then there's another group of people who are using drones in the agricultural space for security. But then there's another group of guys that are really doing some innovative stuff, where they are now taking the AI and building their own products according to whatever challenges they are trying to solve, like the previous panelist did mention. So and mainly what the same thing when we visit farmers, the thing that we try and tell them is that drones are just a part of the picture on a smart farm. So there's different other things that also goes into smart farms. So one of the most prevalent questions that we need to ask is how they can use drones in stock theft and all of that stuff. And I try and advise on this thing and say it's a combination of different IoTs. So it will be the drone, it will be the cameras, it will be sensors, it will be a lot of things. It's not just one solution that solves everything, but yeah, that's the main part of how the drones fit into it. But they're excellent in terms of giving you a better aerial view and like clear data for you to take and analyze and build any models that you want to build.
Thanks so much. And I think, I sometimes see even here in my residential area, there'll be drones flying around. So I think it's definitely the thing that people are most attracted to. And kind of think about when they think about Agri-Tech, but I know that there's way more, happening around it. I want to bring Ayanda back into the conversation. Ayanda, this next part, and I'm going to shift it a little bit towards a topic that we've probably spoken about so many times. Climate change, posing a great challenge in terms of traditional farming practices. But how is agricultural technology kind of, these innovations helping farmers to adapt to the changing climate conditions to kind of mitigate, these effects and kind of to improve, crop yields overall? Thanks so much.
So I think, this question, obviously, we cannot ignore what's happening, climate change, and even going back to an example with one of our previous farmers, where, right now in Limpopo, I think 2 years back, they're hit by crazy, crazy rains that basically destroyed all their crops, and, they lost millions on tomatoes. And, when they think about previously, that was never the issue. Then you fast forward to what's happening now. One of the main things that some of the farmers in that side are struggling with is the sort of the heat. It's hot there, yes, but now it's unbearably hot. And what that has really done is, obviously, when there's so much heat, you need to irrigate more, and irrigating more means, diesel, or if you don't have consistent water or irrigation, you need to get diesel and all of those things, which means those costs really do add up, right? If you don't have, diesel for generator for the irrigation. So what technology can really do in that space to say that, can we then look at precision farming, where we can use drones to identify heat stress crops, right? And I think the impact of heat being a factor, how can we then identify these crops that are heat stressed, which is a real example right now, and then adjust the irrigation schedule in order to provide more of a different practice to enable to either revive that crop or essentially to prevent that from happening. I think another thing that has been happening is, how can we use historical weather data to develop an adaptive strategy, which is I think it's always like, but how do we do that when things keep changing so much? But I think data allows us to sort of also build ways of how we can preempt and how we can actually minimize the impact of heat stress on these crop yields, because ultimately anything that happens is, how is that going to affect my yields and how much will I be able to sell? And so I think with technology, you're able to basically mitigate some of these changing climate conditions by using data to analyze previous data, or sort of, I would say, preempt the kind of conditions that can happen, what you could apply in that instance. And I think also looking at how you can use drones, as has already mentioned, to identify these heat stress crops so that you can adjust the irrigation. And obviously in that instance, you don't have to scout your entire field, which can be hectares and hectares. You've got drones that are doing that work for you, which means you don't need to hire that labor to do all of that scouting for you. And I think also another thing is how we can use smart irrigation systems to monitor the soil moistures in levels and weather forecast to optimize watering and prevent crop dehydration. So I think there are really different sort of technologies that we can use to actually look at how we can mitigate and basically, I'd say, work around sort of the issues that are coming with the climate change, the climate conditions that are really affecting our farmers.
Thanks so much for that, Ayanda. And then my next question would be around, robotics, the use of robotics. And I want to get Boise to kind of come in here and talk about his experience with it, or maybe some of what he's seen that's out there, because it is gaining momentum. Is there an example that you can kind of showcase the robotic applications that are proving to be game changers, especially when it comes to labor efficiency and overall productivity? Thanks so much, Boise. Were you hit with load shedding? Because it's all of a sudden it's dark in the background.
No. I usually no. I have a bad left eye, so I usually keep the lights on.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So sorry. essentially, so with robotics, I just want to speak in specifically in South Africa, what I could say, because robotics is still a lot of innovation, and I feel there's a lot of opportunities for, especially a lot of young people who are interested in the future skills where they could go in and do some things in the robotics. In South Africa, mainly the industry that has been most welcoming to robotics is in the division of the industry in agriculture that has been most accepting to robotics has been on the warehouse, like the citrus farms and all of those guys. So those are the guys, the packing houses and all those stuff. Those are the guys that are currently experimenting with the robotics, with the basic one, which is just the sorting. And now and I know they're also doing loading, so they don't want their laborers loading and stuff, heavy stuff or using unsafe forklifts. So they're trying to look at smart technologies that can help them to do their packing or sorting more efficiently. But I just want to speak on the point of it's really an industry where it's going to affect a lot of labor, a lot of jobs, and it's kind of a worry because I think as an industry we should be now start looking at how we could assist all of those people that are gonna get affected, because it's something that's gonna come like a big wave. And so these are some of the things that we are seeing, because the technology is moving very fast. As the computers get better, the technology is going to move even more faster, and it's going to get more commercialized even faster. So yeah, the robotics, I think it's one of, especially in smart farming, it's the main industry that is getting a lot of looks and a lot of investment into them.
Thank you so much, Boise, and just a lot of love going out there to Ayanda. People saying thank you. She's also saying thank you so much. So thanks, Ayanda, for your contributions, and thanks to everybody. Not to just say it's Ayanda that stole the show, but thank you so much. So also Tandeka saying self-driving tractors equipped with GPS and sensors common in citrus. I think Boise, you just mentioned that now. So thank you so much for the interaction and engagement on the comment section as well. If you'd like to know anything else, please do shout and message there. We are nearing the end of our conversation, and I did say that we would highlight some of the things that's happening in the Indaba in April. So I'm going to welcome Ipeleng soon to come and talk about that briefly. But maybe if we can just talk again, Ayanda, I'm going to go back to you in terms of blockchain technology. It is being explored in various industries, but how is it actually being applied in agriculture? And, what role does it play in ensuring transparency, traceability, and fair trade practices within the agricultural supply chain? So if you can just go over that briefly. We don't have a lot of time left, but I would like to touch on this as well as part of the discussion tonight. Thanks, Ayanda.
All right, awesome. I'm sort of not going to answer what it's doing because there's not enough time. I'm basically going to say it's probably not the most the best option for right now, and purely because the environmental implications that come with blockchain are insane. I think I'm probably Black Bear because they also deal a lot with different types of technologies. For what you are getting from blockchain is basically what's still happening now. When you outweigh with the environmental implications, it sort of becomes not necessary for you to use as an alternative. Because, if you're speaking about transparency, traceability, security, obviously it's decentralized. That's all we know about blockchain. There's a lot of sort of platforms are offering some of those things. I would like to believe our platform is doing some of that. It might not be as accurate or as secure as the blockchain, but in terms of what we're offering, you're able to sort of, trace where the crop comes from, things like that. You're able to sort of see, store information that maybe farms would not necessarily, not even information, data that farms would not necessarily normally store that data, because obviously maybe they try trading informally. Now you can actually see your buying habits, your selling habits, all of those different things that can be done through our platform. And so to use the, blockchain as an alternative and the environmental implications, for me, it's almost like a summary of saying that the benefits of what they bring are actually do not outweigh the implications that basically what they do to the environment, because the process that you need to basically run this to run that, you require a lot of sort of computational power, which leads to very high energy consumption and carbon emissions. So you sort of are saying that is actually not an option until it gets better. Maybe it will be an option, but right now there are really great platforms that can offer that, but may not be as secure as you using the blockchain as an alternative.
Then we actually had another speaker, Ansel Adams, who was specifically focused on this area, but hopefully we get a chance to talk about all of this again. I think, so many of these conversations that we have weekly, we basically just scratching the surface. I know that there's way more we can talk about and way more we can get into in all of these areas as well. I think I'm going to go over my last question just because of that's what time will allow. So I'm going to go back to the Black Bear team and then just ask them, agricultural technology, continues to evolve. What do you guys see as the most promising, developments and trends for the future to really kind of revolutionize or further revolutionize the agricultural sector in the coming years? And you can speak about, how you see it, because I know you guys work on a product that's, actually works globally. So maybe you can just talk about what you think of it as we wrap up. Thank you. And also how people can reach you.
Essentially, one of the most promising things that we see is the use of gaming engines to give us the ability to create platforms that can essentially integrate and allow us to do three things: create, visualize, and simulate. So I think a lot of the platforms that we have at the moment is just but a beautiful. So it acts as a system of record that gives you certain insights, and you can get certain insights from it. But in terms of using the technologies and machine learning capabilities out there, what we are currently working is the use of Unreal Engine. It's a gaming engine that's used to make several games out there, and it as a platform actually allows us to simulate quite a few things when we get historical data on everything. So let's say, for example, soil sensors, weather stations, crop monitoring devices. So we're essentially able to put that into a simulation, visualize what that looks like according to the field, and essentially have a one-to-one replica of, based on that historical information, what the field might yield in the future, but give you a more useful look at what it will actually look like. And together with that, putting in weather information, putting in as much information as we can to have you see something, essentially what it will look like. So having a digital twin or a virtual replica of your physical environment. It's primarily now, most of the studies are being done in the AEC space. But yeah, we're working on this in the agri space. And one of the things a client told us recently is, so essentially what you're saying is you want to make farm simulator, but for real. And we said, absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what we want to do. So it is very interesting with all of the advancements that come through. As we mentioned earlier, we want to be an integrated platform for multiple systems, third-party systems, to integrate into one. So whether that's your ERP systems, your farming management systems, etc., on a much larger scale. But for us, the most important thing is to make this as accessible as possible to new entry farmers and new era farmers as well. And even though it's a challenging goal, it is a very attainable goal. It just needs measurable outcomes, and we'll have a happy future.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Yannick. Just the last word from you, Alpha, if you'd like to add something in closing. And also just where do we contact you guys? Like, how do we follow you? What do we do?
First and foremost, you can follow us at Black Bear underscore services on Instagram. Same name on LinkedIn, and then there's a website as well. All of the website is connected on each of those platforms. And then I'll add to what Yannick was saying is that that's the possibly the holistic large view. The other exciting thing is that gradually the prices and the accessibility of sensors and small tools and IoT kits are becoming accessible to the common partner, the homestead owner as well. That's going to force this entire thing to become a sort of a consolidated effort eventually in the near future. I think that might grow more than we think, faster than we think. Looking at the state of the economy in various parts of the world, people are now incentivized to an extent to rely on themselves as a community or individuals. So I think that industry, that sect of providing for the homeowners, is also starting to expand, which will feed into all of these various forms of agri-tech. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alpha and Yannick from Black Bay Services. It's an absolute pleasure to have you both with us. Just to answer the question here, is the session being recorded? Yes, it is. What we usually do is we upload the audio onto YouTube. So you can go to Food from Zanzi's YouTube channel. There'll also be an article published with some of the highlights of the discussion on Food from Zanzi. So that's www.foodfromzanzi.co.za. And I'll be publishing this live on the Instagram page of Food from Zanzi as well, so you can go back and listen to that. Okay, now I feel like I'm talking too much. Ayanda, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I actually want to also answer this question because I think I want to go back to what we actually do. I think a lot of the other things are really cool, and somehow they always speak back to, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to sell. And so all of these different technologies do enable you to produce great yields. But I think I want to bring it back to what we do and some of the last question around the opportunities. I think when you look at digital marketplaces, I think what we've essentially done, or what other platforms out there, businesses are doing, is you basically are enhancing market access and for a lot of farmers, and as you know how it is right now in terms of access to market is such a I think we can maybe talk about that another time, but I think the very promising opportunities that there'll be more enhanced market access, and I think pricing becomes a big thing in this conversation, and then this will also increase transparency. I think these are some of the things that we can look forward to, or promising opportunities. Another exciting one that we're working on with my team is really seeing how the fintech part of it. We all know how hard it is to get funding in this space. A lot of informal way of doing things. Farmers are moving lots of money, millions cash, and there's just no lack of financial profile. How can we use data on our platforms to essentially build financial profiles for farmers so that they can unlock funding opportunities? So I think those are some of the exciting things that, we can look forward to, and that means more access to funding for farmers that historically would not qualify, for funding. And I think one of my colleagues likes saying, you'll find that someone is an emerging farmer for 20 years. And this will allow someone to start being an emerging farmer for 20 years and to actually really sort of grow because they'll have access to funding. I think there's also other exciting things. Also, data becomes really key in all of this, data sharing and how we can use data to foster innovation. So I think from what we're doing at Kula, these are some of the exciting and promising opportunities that exist within a space. I think more so around the fintech solutions and what it can bring for farmers, and especially historically farmers that would not normally qualify. And we're already doing that, so I don't want to get into that, where we were able to get funding for farmers that are not bankable based on some of our control measures on our platforms, and from a traditional bank, which is really awesome. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Ayanda. Really a pleasure to have you representing Kula here this evening. You guys do amazing work. And I wanted to touch on that, but I think it's only an hour. I think we should probably try and have a part 2 on this eventually. I had this exact same discussion a year ago, and I think I'll probably have it for the years to come. Just because the technology changes so much and there's so much to talk about it. But Boise, I'd love to hear your take also on that question. Just how you see the tech evolving, also in the work that you're doing specifically. Where do you see yourself growing towards, in this industry? Thanks.
Okay. So on my side, so essentially, I think the part that excites me the most about the Agri-Tech development is the training part. So where we get to train young people, farmers, and all of that stuff. I think once we have more people involved and more people trained, I think we're gonna see the industry like explode. So I'm really excited about that part, and I'm excited about seeing more young people. What can I say? Involved in part of the Agri-Tech, because I think it promises a lot of opportunities in the future. And then that's mainly the main thing. And so I'm reachable on LinkedIn mainly, or Instagram, but as Zipezinhle Kabuza or Boise Kabuza.
Thank you so much, Boise. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you to all for taking the time to talk to me. I'm going to break my fast now. So alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. Really, really excited to have you all here, and all the best with your endeavors and everything that you're doing for the agricultural industry. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.